at a time of crisis is not that easy, especially when you're setting up a regulated company that requires a minimum of 6 million of capital to launch. We're now in a pleasant position that we've been in the market for 2 years. We had to fight a lot of bureaucracy. We had to fight a lot of incumbents' involvement in our launch, where things took longer than what we expected. But we now have 29 people. Client base is growing by the day, and I think we are making a difference in a market that we believe is ripe for disruption. So that's the brief introduction.
Excellent, thank you. Now, Nikos, your company is also part of it is online, but it's a very different industry with a very different approach. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about that.
Hello, good evening from me too. The story is different than I like to Alexis. And we also started at a pretty weird time to start a company in Greece. I remember that in May of 2012, where everybody was fearing the Brexit and the drachma, and it was a terrible time when people were trying to get out of Greece. My partner and I decided to leave very good careers outside Greece, come back here and start a technology company. And so we started around the summer of 2012. What was then a company of 4 people is now a company of 24, and is going to be 60 in the next 6 or 8 months. We produce software. That's what we knew how to do. We were software guys. We make software that helps small and medium enterprises manage the recruiting, find smart people to join the business. Within about a year from the time when we started selling the software, we grew to 1 million revenues. And the company is growing by 30% month on month over the past few months. Most of its sales are in the States. Bigger markets, the small and medium enterprises in America. We employ about 20 people here in Greece, very talented engineers who produce world-class product. And now we're on the point where I'm moving to Boston on Tuesday. We're on the point where we're embarking into building more of our international presence since our customers are there, and try to see whether what is a pretty good start can actually become a really big business. And yeah, that's the story.
Great story. We're a little sad to see you go, but I think it sounds like a good plan. Now, Dimitri, you have online and you also have an actual store, an actual venue. So I was hoping, and your company started even more recently than these guys, so I was hoping you could talk to us a little bit before we jump into the questions.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for the invitation. I'm sorry. Farmers Republic is an online platform which trying to link producers and consumers directly with one click, with one move. In Greece, it started as an online-only service 2 years ago under a different name called ginagrotis.gr. It was an online platform, an annual service for your weekly needs on organic fresh produce, and it evolved into Farmers Republic, launching our first store last January. Actually, what we did, we tried to launch the first real farmers market in Greece with an e-shop option and delivery at your door on a weekly basis in Athens as a main target. And 4 months ago, we expanded to delivering in the European Union with a next-day delivery. Organic products, certified organic products actually, directly from producers who take part in our community. Our vision was to create an experience of Greek excellent premium products, to promote quality control, and certify with the whole, to be responsible for the whole operation, for all the operations. Actually, we don't buy, we don't sell. We give access to small to medium producers to sell directly. We do all the handling, the certification, the quality control, and we manage the central logistics and all the marketing campaigns that we act for them. So that's mainly Farmers Republic with many other sectors.
Fantastic. In preparing for this panel, we've had various discussions with both the professors and the panelists. And even though the companies are quite different, as you've heard, both in their customer base and their scope and their reach, there were certain themes that seem to appear again and again. So I'm actually going to start with a question towards Alexi, if he could talk about a little bit. You're one of the companies that did start in the crisis. As Peter mentioned, it's a good place to start. And now you have close to 20,000 clients, I think we discussed. What approach did you take in order to scale up and attract clients, specifically in this environment?
I think the biggest challenge that we had when starting is that you're an unknown brand coming into a market where some brands have existed forever, Ethniki being one of them. Other brands you can find on the top of any building you drive through, whether it's Inter-American or people like that. And you're coming in as a no-name brand, starting an insurance company, not a brokerage firm, where you have no brand to leverage on. So the biggest challenge coming into the market was convincing people that we exist, that we're credible, and that we're not a fly-by-night operation. One of the bad things about launching a business in Greece is that the consumer has actually been burned quite a few times by other businesses that have started. They grew very, very quickly. They started advertising like crazy, and then they disappear because there were fraudsters, there were crooks, they were not managing their resources, and they ran out of money. So I think for us, it was quite important to scale this pace of growth. We were entering a market that was in price competition. Prices have dropped in the last 2 years by 25%. So very few people would actually come online and search for a cheaper alternative. So the combination of lack of credibility and lack of scale in the beginning to build that word of mouth and positive spirals was quite difficult for us. We've, in what techniques did we use? Frankly, I wish I listened to Jim's lecture about a year and a half ago. I think we stumbled across a number of the things that you mentioned, and both Emilios and I, not coming from a marketing background, we had to try things out. I think for us, things that have worked is we have leveraged on other people's databases or people that had the voice of the client, had the ear of the client, and we did strike commercial partnerships with them. For example, we have a partnership with Citigroup, that Citigroup went to all the clients and offered a special discount from Elas Direct directly to the consumer. They kept no economics because what they were trying to solve is increase online spend. So things like that have helped us in the scalability of things. But at the beginning, we definitely overspent, to use one of your slides, we've overspent to acquire some of our original customers. I think going forward, and we can talk about it in much more detail later, is that we do believe that word of mouth is the most important way of getting our clients. We do believe that giving a wow service to the people that crash, which is 1 in 10, would actually push forward this positive multiplier, okay, virality factor. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexi. Jim, Peter, would either of you like to amplify or share experiences or examples related to some of the themes raised? Or both of you.
Okay. Well, let me start, and we'll make it a big party, and everyone will chime in. So one of the things I'm struck by as you describe what the nature of your innovation, it's really a go-to-market innovation. What you are recognizing was either a flaw or an inadequacy, and you say, by eliminating the middleman, we can take a lot of cost out of the system. But I think what you're also doing is you're saying it's possible that the market for insurance no longer requires the work performed by the middleman in the past. Technology has changed the way in which we do these things, and so this, I think, is the essential entrepreneurial recognition that the innovation that we have, it's not so much the product itself, it's the way we're going to come to market with it. So that was one. The other thing is that sometimes that middleman was helpful in doing things like customer acquisition. So as Peter said, sometimes you create new problems, you had to take on the task of driving customer acquisition without the middleman to help you. So the network of friendships and social connections and so on that your sales force might have had and brought to you, you're now replacing with some of these other things. And it's a credit to you that you've discovered them, right? I mean, there are ways in which you can find people and bring your product to them. So, you know, I would say sometimes a change in go-to-market strategy requires innovation with respect to how you acquire your customers.
And what I would add to that, we had a great experience with Esurance in the United States, which, if I may say, had a similar challenge with the bureaucracy. And so even the U.S. government, in terms of how it held back the entrepreneurial drive, was pretty amazing, because it was state by state. So Esurance had to get licensed in each state of the United States, and it was quite a task. So my hat's off to you for being able to do that. What I would do, from my experience with Esurance, is think about what are the advantages you have over your competition. And to me, just from the conversation, you're direct. So you know your customer probably better than your competition does. And now that you have a small but useful critical mass of customers, you can say, okay, who are the customers that are buying? Why are they buying? And maybe connect with them in a way that helps you get more customers, either through the virality that Jim spoke to in one of his slides, or just in terms of demographic information. One of the key lessons we learned with Esurance, and this may go more to your brand, is their customer, particularly their initial customer, was a younger customer. It was a younger demographic. So frankly, they shaped their brand for that younger demographic. With that knowledge, it helped them build a brand that was new and refreshing, and actually kind of judoed their lack of having a well-established, old, stodgy brand, and they took advantage of being new in the marketplace to that particular demographic. But I dare say they would not have known about that unless they really understood their customer better than the companies that had to go through a middleman to sell their product. So I don't know if you've done that, but that was one of the experiences that we've learned from Esurance, was if you're selling direct, not only are you saving your customer money, but you probably know them better than your competition. Well, take advantage of that information for the next level of growth that you have.
Just a quick one on that one. Thanks for the feedback, both of you. The first shock that we had with Emilios is the age of the demographics that came to us. We expected young drivers. In reality, when you look at our portfolio, the average age is 44 years old.
That's young. That's young.
Which is clearly very young. That's the point I was about to make. The second shock, which was the one number in our business plan that we got totally wrong, and it was to our benefit in the end, was that we expected that the Greek consumer would want to replicate the telephone relationship they had with the broker and call a client service team as opposed to coming online. So we budgeted for that, for the volume of people that we have right now, that we probably had a 70-person call center. In reality, we have about 1/5 of that. And the main reason is that people actually come online. 9 out of 10 of our clients come and buy online without even calling us. We call them as customer service, but that, to your point about changing consumer behavior as you go, we have experienced that in Greece. And the crisis definitely helps. I think a big cliche to say that the crisis creates opportunities, but this is the time that people are beginning to reevaluate the way they purchase things, the way they behave, how comfortable they are spending 25% to an unnecessary middleman, as you said before.
Thank you, everyone. Touching upon the point of eliminating the middleman and changing consumer behavior, I'd actually like to direct a question to Dimitris, where you've, in essence, gotten rid of the middleman, created the online market where the farmers have access, the consumers can buy, but you're also creating a new type of behavior, if I understand it, for households to order their products online to come to them. So how have you dealt with the different types of customers you have, the farmer, the consumer, and while at the same time trying to get consumers to order online? Just those three questions altogether.
Okay, just those three. Okay, actually we have farmers are clients and consumers are clients. Mainly we focused for our clients, for our consumers, because by the time we have, we have the critical mass of consumers, we can supply, we can help all the farmers to forward and sell directly their products. I have to mention that the Farmers Republic started as a romantic idea while I was working in Foli Group as a financial analyst. I didn't know even how tomatoes, the plantation was. So that romantic idea, it was really difficult to make it work. In Greece especially, most of the households, they don't buy online. So we started with Gina Grotis trying to, we created a story which was a real need. We had an annual service on a weekly basis at your door. So it was intriguing. The media helped us. And we tried we achieved our first customers to pay for the service. Then we had a heritage from that service. And we expanded to online marketing only. We focused on that. We didn't have a real shop at that time. So we spent all the money we had in online marketing and promo baskets to people we knew, family, friends, and even journalists, so that we could achieve attention. So that was a hard way to, the last few years was a bit difficult because we had to, there's no culture in the Greek households for buying online. They search for prices, but they don't actually buy online. So at that point, we thought, okay, we have contacts with the farmers, we have some consumers. Why don't we don't only take the product, bring the product in Athens, but also bring the farmer to make to create a point where they interact. They have an experience on what they're talking about. It's not. It was actually a disruptive idea. You could have the same quality as the quality in premium stores in Athens, but half price. So it was quite strange. The farmers, they couldn't understand the online version of as a channel of sales. So it was for us. We launched our shop, our physical store, for solving our inner problems and achieving a brand awareness. Maybe I forgot two of the three questions, I think.
I think you did pretty well, actually, in addressing them. Peter, Jim, have you had experiences with companies trying to change behavior and change consumer behavior, or suggestions for companies that are trying to achieve that and that have different types of clients involved?
Yes, in fact, there's a great story about, I think you probably are aware of the company Airbnb. It's been a really big success worldwide. And one of the early stories, I think it's true, of Airbnb is they actually started off with a very poor record. Their first year, they were doing hardly much business at all. And it was really, I'm talking about for a whole year, it was just not doing well at all. And they looked at some of the data and realized that the customers that they did have, they had put up photographs of their locations in a very professional way. So the more professional the photograph, the more people stayed at that location. Now that may seem logical now, but it was a aha moment for the folks at Airbnb. But then they thought, well, how are we going to fix this? And so what they ended up doing was sending, literally the next day, a professional photographer out to one of their locations to New York City to take professional photos of as many of their clients as they could. They put that on, and lo and behold, they ended up doubling the number of clients. Now, the entrepreneurs at first said, this can't scale. We can't send a professional photographer to every location. But that really wasn't the point. The point was, and I think it's similar to your experience, try an experiment you tried online, but maybe that didn't work as well. Try the direct connection. That may not scale as well, but that's okay. If it starts selling more product and makes something happen, make that work, and then you can figure out how to scale after that. So I don't know if that lesson applies, but that was a great lesson for Airbnb, and they eventually figured out a way to encourage their customers to take better quality photos of it, and the rest is history. But it was a great lesson for me to hear, because most entrepreneurs say, oh, I can't do that because it won't scale, it's going to cost me money. The point is, make your product work first, make it the best out there, get those customers very enthusiastic about you, then worry about scaling after that point.
So I had two thoughts in reaction. The first has to do with the way you phrased the question.
Oh, no.
And when you talk about, what advice you have for entrepreneurs who want to change behavior, I don't know how venture capitalists feel about that, but when you hear that word as a marketer, you think, uh-oh. People don't change behavior. I mean, it's not like saying, hey, I've got a new way for you to do things. And people go, So the point is, why do I need to change behavior? It's because there's some other part of your life that is not working right, that you're not happy with, right? So the real thing is, as an entrepreneur, always try to figure out, what are you going to offer people in exchange for the thing that they're going to have to do differently? And that's why this focus on the people who say, I'm fed up with the kind of produce that I'm feeding my family. I'm fed up. You talk to those people and you say, okay, so tell me what you're doing today. Well, I'm traveling far to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm trying to work out arrangements with friends. That sounds inconvenient. What if we had a farmer's market somewhere where you could pick up certified organic produce? Then that's when you prove out that concept of, will people go the extra mile to do what it is you need to do? And I like the idea of, what if you could talk with farmers when you were there to ask the kind of questions that you need? You don't know the answer to that, so it's a hypothesis. We'll give it a try and we'll see whether that works. So that was my first thought. The other thing I'd like to add, for those people in the audience who are saying, well, I'm never going to be selling organic produce, so how is this relevant to me? This is a great example of a two-sided market. And the success requires that you bring together both the consumers who care about organic produce and the suppliers who can sort of bring that certified thing together. That's a really hard thing to do. So when you get that to work, it's great. One of the reasons it's hard is because you have to keep it in balance. Let me give you an example of another company called Pandora in the US. Online, I want to listen to music online. I can do it for free from Pandora if I put up with some ads. That's a two-sided market, and it turns out that while you think it's easy, you think everything online is free, right? Pandora is paying millions and millions of dollars for the royalty rights to play that music. And so the only way that they can make that pay is if they can serve the advertisements to people who are going to listen. So I have to have the advertisers. Well, the advertisers don't want to be there because they don't know who's listening to the music. So I got to have people listening to the music, but the people listening to the music are going to cost me money every time I serve to them. What we found from talking to Tim Westergren, who was the founder of the company, was the trick involved. What they really hadn't thought through was continuing to build their online advertisers so that they had the market, the people paying for the revenues that allowed them to build the other side of the business. So a lot of you people are probably thinking about, well, I'll be an intermediary and there'll be these two things I balance. It's tricky, isn't it? And so you have to think about acquisition on both sides, a balanced acquisition strategy.
Which just means you need double the amount of venture capital is the only thing. It's not a problem.
Thank you very much for your comments. Actually, it's really hard to have a balance between two totally different communities, the farmers and consumers, and even trying to give them the motivation to be in the same place at the same time and exchange ideas is too difficult, especially in Greece, to merge them. They have totally different needs, but on top of that, we didn't try to change behavior. on the one side or the other. We try to offer premium organic products at a special price with the option of delivering at your door wherever you want, with the flexibility of that. So we try to offer, we focused on a special, on a special part of the consumers. We focused on people who, on the segment of the consumers, sorry. People who are from 30s to 50s who consume organic product and they need a better quality, a better price, like a fair trade, a better value for money, and with the option to have the delivery service at their door because they are too busy, they are wealthy but too busy to come. But as an experience, most of them once per month they visit Pharmacy Public to see the new seasonal products, taste them there in the physical store, and then order them online. So we try to adapt to the environment existing.
Okay, I'm going to go with a safe question now, since everyone seems to have a comment on the way I asked it. No, I'm kidding. Nico, you have picked a very specific customer, the small to medium-sized enterprise, and you have a very international client base. Your customers include Marks and Spencers, they include Ship, many international non-Greek related companies. Can you talk a little bit about what has worked for you in the past and what challenges you faced with acquiring these clients and moving forward?
Yeah, our story is, in this respect, it's been one of evolving understanding of who are the right customer for this product. When we started making Workable, we were making Workable for one particular first customer, and that was us. We made the kind of software we would have liked to have used in the past when we were hiring managers in a medium-sized, fast-growing company. So we thought we were making a software for those hiring managers. What happened really is that when we made software like that, this happened to also be very good software for the very small business owner. They seem to have similar needs. And then we started seeing a wide variety. Actually, SMEs are not very specific. There's a very wide ranging. You know, we have customers who could be a dog spa in Hollywood or an orthodontist in Ohio, a hotel in Kuala Lumpur, or a fast-growing, sexy Series A startup or something. So these people are very different, but when you work with them, you realize that there are a few things they have in common. What I think they have in common with respect to Workable is that they're not the type of companies that were typically the customers of a recruiting system. The companies that have such a big and an enormously complex internal HR process that they need a system to document it, a system of record, but people who actually want to go and use the online tools available and click a few buttons, communicate with a few of their colleagues, and make a hiring decision. And all of these guys I just described, all of these companies I just described, they do share this thing in common. But this is something that if you asked me a year ago, I had no idea of. I made the software for myself, and I realized who else wants that sort of thing. And now I'm in the process of thinking, how can I talk to more of these people and let them know about it?
Would either of you like to comment on that approach, or do you have examples?
So it brings to mind an example. This is, again, someone who I've had in my class. But Nate Weiner is a fellow who founded a company that now called Pocket, used to be called Read It Later. You're on your browser, something comes up, you say, oh, that's interesting, but I'll never be able to navigate back here again. Have this little app where you click it, and now what it does is it puts it in a pocket for later. It's completely a piece of software that he wrote for himself. And I think so many